that loves those who make repentance and those who purify themselves, whether it be externally or internally. So none of us is free from any sins, whether it's practicing brothers or practicing sisters or non-practicing. We are all in need. وَخُلِقَ الْإِنسَانُ ضَعِيفًا. Man has been created inside a state of weakness. We are not angels, so no one should think that any one of us is free from committing any sins. Just the degree of sins may vary at different times and different places. So at least the first step is that a person in al-nadam huwa tawbah, as you find in Sunan of Ibn Majah, indeed regret, remorsefulness is tawbah. So if a person feels regret inside their heart in what they've done or what they're facing, and that is a good sign, inshallah. A person prays to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, give them tawfiq and ability to come out of this environment or that type of environment which will lead to dangers. Retract yourself from that type of society and try to bring yourself to a better society or a better environment that keeps you free from the evils and the sins and the vices that unfortunately all of us are surrounded by. And in reality, it's a whole topic in itself to talk about the rights and regulations of tawbah. Wallahu a'lam.
One more question, we'll breeze through them inshallah. Yeah. What would be the best actions to try and earn Jannah?
The best action, you find al-fara'id, the most best thing that a person can do to get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is to remain steadfast upon al-fara'id, upon the obligatory actions, especially living inside the West, that we find that many people are not steadfast upon the obligatory actions of praying 5 times a day, remaining committed upon that praying. Try to pray in jama'ah, in congregation, inside the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Come to that on a regular basis, hold fast to that. Likewise, the rest of the obligatory action of paying one's zakah, performance of Hajj, fast in the month of Ramadan. Likewise, studying the Quran, reading the Quran, implementing the Quran, reading the tafsir of the Quran. Likewise, reading the seerah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Likewise, you find the hadith, لا تحقرن من المعروف شيئا. Do not despise any good deed. Any good deed, do not belittle it. No Muslim should think that this good deed has no value at all. That's we find in the hadith that the Iman is some 70 odd branches of faith, and that's Imam al-Bayhaqi wrote a whole risala, a whole kitab based upon this hadith. And أعلاها قول لا إله إلا الله, the highest level being saying لا إله إلا الله, وأدناها إماتة الأذى عن الطريق, to remove an obstacle from the path. So that is some of us may find that trivial. That's the least sign of Iman, to remove an obstacle away from the path. So as far as a Muslim is concerned, is always striving to do whatever action they can do to earn themselves, inshallah, with the reward of paradise. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that multiplies that reward based upon the intention.
The sisters, inshallah, if you want to leave their pieces of paper on the floor, they'll will pick it up. I haven't got a chair. So if you want to slide it outside, inshallah, the curtain, and we'll pick it up from there. What advice do you give to someone who does not and cannot yearn for Jannah?
Wallahi, I don't know what advice to give someone who doesn't yearn for Jannah. I don't know what advice to give. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala open up their heart and their mind and to begin to yearn or have a desire to return back to paradise. Maybe there may be too much dunya, too much Jannah here in this world. So, but there is no paradise on earth. That's just a fake belief. Even those lovely islands that you find outside, they are not really paradise. There still seems to be some difficulty. Remember, in paradise, when a person returns back to paradise, there will be no obstacles. There will be no urine. There will be no defecation. There will be no digestive system. There will be no the common day things that we find as human beings upon this earth. Everything will be refined about the human being. So maybe this individual needs to go back, as we mentioned, read the description of the book of paradise inside Sahih Muslim. Maybe that may, wallahu a'lam, begin to create some yearning to go towards paradise and maybe lessen the contact with the dunya, inshallah.
So a few more inshallah will do. Assalamu alaikum. Brother, can angels still descend from the heavens for Jannah, partaking of someone? Assuming it's linked to you.
Wallahu a'lam, that's something we cannot visualize, that if angels do descend. This was something specific for the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that he saw the angels and he mentioned it. As for someone to come along and say that the angels have come down, there is no concrete proof for that. Person may feel their presence, wallahu a'lam, some form of serenity, tranquility, some peace, etc. that could be there. So there's no concrete evidence for that. As for the angels descending, they will descend. There's no doubt about that. Numerous verses inside the Quran, as we mentioned, that descend for those people who believe. Likewise, in the station of battle of Badr and Uhud, etc. And even to this day, that you find Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promised that the angels will descend. So as for to visually say that we visualize the angels in the funeral prayer, then that is something which Wallahu A'lam has to be proven.
Regarding wine in Jannah, will it be similar like the way honey and milk is mentioned? And the second point is Jannah separated by walls between the stages. And the third point, can anyone meet Rasulullah Sallallahu in Jannah?
Barakallah fiqh. Question we find, so regarding the wine in Jannah that we find, the wine is sharaban tahura. The wine in paradise will be pure wine. It does not intoxicate the mind. It does not give you the language that you use in this world, give you a hangover, etc., make you feel sick or whatever it may be. So the wine inside paradise, whoever drinks the wine of this world will never drink the wine of the hereafter. Whoever wears gold of this world and silk of this world for a man will be forbidden from it inside the Akhirah. That's we find the first time when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions about paradise inside Surah Al-Baqarah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that you will be given that which is mutashabihan, that which is similar, carrying the meaning that the names are the same as what you're used to inside this dunya. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about trees, about gardens, about rivers, about valleys, about palaces, about clothing, these are names that we can relate to. As Ibn Abbas mentioned, as for their entity, is totally different. So the apple inside inside the fruit inside paradise will not be the fruit of this dunya. Every time you take a bite, the taste will change, the color will change, everything will change. When you throw the core, you find it will just, the cork, etc., just throw it back and it will just turn back to the apple and go back to the tree. Everything will be different. So when the names are mentioned inside the Quran, which is similar to the names of this world, but the entity will be totally different. So the wine in paradise will be pure wine, does not intoxicate the mind. Likewise, find rahiq al-makhtum, in the sealed nectar, sealed with the sealed nectar. Likewise, find drinks of zanzabil, of ginger, pure drink that will be given to the believers inside the Akhirah. As for Jannah separated by walls between the stages, Allah, as far as I recall, you'll be able to see the various levels of paradise. Those at the lower level will be able to see the people in the upper level, and likewise the upper level will be able to see the lower level. And as for meeting the Prophet Muhammad, that is amongst, after seeing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is the creed of Ahlul Sunnah, seeing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inside the Akhirah, then the next great blessing for the believers will be to go back and meet the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make that possible for all of us, inshallah.
I heard from my brother that there was a prostitute woman who was once granted Jannah because she saw a dog in thirst and helped the dog. Can you please clarify this?
Barakallah fiqh. Fine, Jazakallah khair for that question, brother. Valuable question. Had it on my mind, but I forgot to mention it. This hadith inside Sahih Muslim that we find that a prostitute woman, and he gave water to a dog, and she was entered into paradise. Another wording mentions a man going into the well and taking the water out and giving it to the dog. These are hadith authentic inside the Sahih Imam Muslim that we find. This wording, however, a person should be vigilant. This is talking about Bani Israel, people of the past. So people cannot use that as an evidence today that if a person, a prostitute, goes and does this action, she's eligible to paradise. That's not what the intent is here. So this is specific of the previous generations of Bani Israel, that this woman was blessed, given this immense reward for her. As for to apply that today, that a person can be a disbeliever and just do one good action, gets to paradise, it does not apply. So that's, we should be careful about that. But the lesson that we can extract, that as a Muslim, whatever goodness that we do, because the criteria of gaining paradise is obviously of faith. Person needs to have the right faith, the right creed, the right belief, and follow that up with righteous actions. So the creed of Ahlul Sunnah is that every Muslim, even we talk about deviant Muslims who may have strayed from the path, every Muslim, and he says La ilaha illallah, and he dakhal al-Jannah, will enter into paradise. As for when they will enter paradise, that's something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will judge. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can even take those Usatul Muslimin, those disobedient Muslims, will pluck a group of them and just throw them into paradise. But we don't know, out of the billions that have gone by, and obviously some people rely upon the national lottery and thinking that maybe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala might pluck me and throw me into paradise. So we don't know who it's going to be. So the safest thing is the person is trying to exert themselves, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in His mercy will cover all of us, enshroud the mistakes, just like inside this dunya, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala covers our mistakes, and likewise in the hereafter, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will cover up the mistakes. But the person seeks to expose the mistakes of their fellow brothers and their sisters, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will expose those people, even they happen to be inside the precincts of their own home. So if Muslims are practicing these evil actions, etc., then obviously we tell them to give up these actions. This does not become a justification. Well, at least I've done that one good deed, that's enough to get me into paradise. The person should try to stay away from these muharramat. Wallahu a'lam.
What are the differences between the lowest to the highest part of paradise?
Yeah, the differences that we find are like the differences between the heavens and the earth. That's the difference between one level towards another level that we find. So when you ask for paradise, ask for the highest level of paradise. Don't just be content with asking just for any level of paradise. Ask for the highest level, Firdawsul A'la, because above that you find that the throne of Ar-Rahman, the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is there, and likewise the rivers of paradise flow from the highest point and begin to flow down. So Muslims should ask for the highest part of paradise when they make dua, inshallah.
There is 7 Jannahs. If I and my family make it to separate Jannahs, inshallah, how will we meet there?
There we find that ulama discuss, we get to meet one another on Yawm al-Jum'ah, you get to visit one another. And this is in general, remember, any affairs of the unseen. When it comes to affairs of the unseen, there's no clear-cut text from the hadith or from the sunnah, from the Quran, then that will, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will create that inside the Akhirah, that people will be able to meet one another and see one another. As we know, the age span of people in paradise will be approximately the age of 30. So people ask the question, that how can a father be with his own son or with his own daughter, etc. Remember, these are umurul ghaybiyat. These are affairs of the unseen. We stop. We don't use our rationale to delve into these issues. That's the creed of Ahlul Sunnah, that a person leaves these affairs. That's you find that Imam Ali made a mention of Sunnah of Abi Dawood, that if any deen was based upon al-aql, based upon the rationale, then we would not wipe over the top of our socks, we would wipe where? Underneath our socks. So that's why the concept is that we wipe over the top. Why? Because we've been told to do according to our deen. But rationalistically, what do we find? What gets filthy? What gets dirty? The underneath of the khuf, the underneath of the sock. So these intricate questions, we just leave them, inshallah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will unite us with our family members inside Jannah. We happen to be separate levels. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may, at times you find, some of Allah mentioned that certain people will be raised up a rank in paradise, or the parents may intercede and get to come higher and higher up into paradise. And this requires much further discussion and research. You find Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah has written a whole Qasida Nuniyah, and inside it has a whole section dedicated towards paradise.
Last few minutes, inshallah, yeah. Throughout the whole talk, I've heard about the rewards we will get in paradise. So people might turn to the deen for this, but shouldn't it be for the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the fear of Allah also, and not the rewards that we're going to get for it?
Barakallah fiqh. I didn't use the word specifically love and fear, but inside the talk, I did highlight that young boy, that was the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that he fled, wasn't it? And likewise, his love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that when the Prophet Muhammad is consoling him, etc. So we know the creed of Ahlul Sunnah is based upon love, hope and fear. That is a clear element. So obviously my talk was mainly focused upon al-mushtaqun, those yearning for paradise. As for a more technical academic study, then that's totally correct. The creed of a Muslim is based upon love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, hope that we'll be forgiven, and fear that we could be punished for the sins that we make is the creed of Ahlul Sunnah. So that is totally correct. Barakallahu fiqh.
How does someone build yearning for Jannah?
How can someone build yearning for Jannah?
What can we do?
You need to get a horse and go out to one of the lands, inshallah. And inshallah, read the Quran, study the Quran, read the tafsir of the Quran, try to implement the Quran. It's one of the most powerful tools of the Quran, and it is the book of guidance that we find that entails and discusses and creates any iman with the individual to create that yearning desire. Likewise, to pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to open up the heart, the mind of the individual, create that desire, and to strengthen oneself with righteous action that person wants to return back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَمَنْ كَانَ يَرْجُو لِقَاءَ رَبِّهِ فَلْيَعْمَلْ عَمَلًا صَالِحًا وَلَا يُشْرِكْ بِعِبَادَةِ رَبِّهِ أَحَدًا. Whoever hopes to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, let that individual associate no partner with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and carry out righteous actions until they meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I heard that 70,000 ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam will enter Jannah without reckoning. Please clarify. This is a famous hadith that you find that the Prophet Muhammad mentioned that certain individuals will not get any form of ruqya, incantation, and any type of treatment from their illnesses. They will not seek any cure, etc. for it. These are 70,000 pure individuals. So Abu Ukasha, or Abu Ukasha bit tashdid, he stood up and he asked the Prophet Muhammad to make me amongst those individuals. And the Prophet Muhammad promised that you're going to be amongst those individuals. Another companion stood up and the Prophet Muhammad said that Abu Ukasha has beaten you to it. So now there's only 69,999 places left. So, what are the chances that we could be amongst those individuals? So basically it means there are the people who place their total trust upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, take no medication, entertain no form of ruqya, incantation. Even though ulama mentioned the use of ruqya, sharia is allowed, the recitations of Quran, to protect, to preserve oneself and to remove any illness. But these are strong believers who have yani وَعَلَى رَبِّهِمْ يَتَوَكَّلُونَ total trust yani upon and in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, don't fall into any form of yani reliance of anything. So those, wallahu a'lam, those 69,999 may have gone, so maybe one of us, wallahu a'lam, could be still there. But let's strengthen our iman to a certain degree, inshallah. Barakallahu fi. You mentioned those from the past who done jihad struggle for Jannah. What is our jihad struggle from here for Jannah? I'll leave that to your own imagination, inshallah. What is our struggle, inshallah? Our struggle living inside this country, brothers, is remain steadfast upon the obligatory actions. We know that many, from our small experience living inside this country, that many people get excited about Islam, but the daily affairs, many Muslims, unfortunately, may Allah protect all of us, fall short. The challenges are many. Living together, coming together now upon Iman, being shrouded, inshallah, by the angels, is obviously rewardful. But when we go out to the wider world, we find the major test that everybody around us, we find kufr, we find disbelief, we find sinning, we find vice. So a person really needs to, we're living in a rage, we're living in the fire. A person needs to purify the Iman, remain constant. That's the Quran mentions, وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ حَبَّبَ إِلَيْكُمُ الْإِيمَانِ وَزَيَّنَهُ فِي قُلُوبِكُمْ وَكَرَّهَ إِلَيْكُمُ الْكُفْرَ وَالْفُسُوقَ وَالْعِصْيَانَ أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الرَّاشِدُونَ. Indeed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made Iman beloved inside our hearts. وَزَيَّنَهُ, beautified it, and made it despicable for us, any actions of disbelief, of kufr, of ma'asi, of sins, of whatever it may be. And those are the successful individuals. So my advice would be to myself and the rest of you brothers, this is the, I like to use the word here, jihad here. Obviously they can twist it another meaning, but jihad, that the struggle, the daily struggle, trying to preserve your identity, to preserve your religious practices, raising your children inside this environment, working with your parents, your brothers, your sisters, and likewise the wider Muslim community. It is a great big struggle, more and more on a daily basis. Do you really think all of us want to remain here? Just based upon the hadith, the Prophet Muhammad, a person who remains with the people and bears the brunt of their problems and their affairs will have two rewards. The person who goes, retreats in a cave, in a state of solitude, you only have one reward. At times we think that, let's just leave, let's just go somewhere. But maybe there could be a double reward of remaining and bearing the problems. And likewise, if find gold is purified, the more you heat gold, the more you shine a diamond, the more it sparkles. The more you test a believer, the more stronger the believer becomes. So that's why living in this environment, inshallah, hopefully maybe our faith may become stronger, and those people may live inside Muslim lands and countries. That we face the difficulties. So it becomes easy that when we do return back to Muslim lands or pure Islamic environment, it becomes easier for us. Because indeed, فَإِنَّ مَعَ الْعُسْرِ يُسْرًا إِنَّ مَعَ الْعُسْرِ يُسْرًا. Indeed, after any difficulty, there will be ease. And likewise, we find that inshallah, the reward will be multiplied as well. Many of the ulama mentioned that people living inside the West, for the good actions that they do, their reward will be multiplied, inshallah, immensely. Because the type of environment they live in, people living in a Muslim land, they hear the adhan, they hear the call for prayer, everything closes, everybody's given a reminder. That's normal. Sometimes it becomes habitual, it becomes a cultural practice. But here you find that struggle to stop and think, right, whether it be a meeting in the office, or whether it be a function, or whether it be this, I haven't prayed my salah, what am I going to do? And we know from experience, so many brothers, they come and they ask these questions, well, I skipped my prayers, I missed my prayers, I've done this, and this is becoming habitual, and it shows that sometimes our groundwork on the fundamentals of Islam have not been grounded. These are daily questions we find, that is qaza allowed in Islam? There's no qaza in Islam, there's no qada. Qada in Islam, according to Sharia, is only when a person has done what? Has fallen asleep, lost their senses, has been truly trapped, is not able to go. When the Prophet was in a state of battle and he's attacking, and you find the Jewish tribe of, what's the name of the tribe? Banu Qurayza was attacking them, and he prevented from offering the Salatul Dhuhr and Salatul Asr and other versions that we find. He said, may their bellies be filled with the fire. So these are obstacles. But as for what's our obstacle? I'm running late for a meeting, so I'd rather go to the meeting. I have to catch the bus, so I'd rather catch the bus, etc. So we should try to work upon these fundamental things about establishing the prayer in our family, amongst the brothers and sisters around us, of being observant of the teachings of the Quran, implement the Quran inside our life, creating a youth environment that we can begin to bring the youth away. Because we know that for every one young individual may have come here today, there's still 999 out there on the streets involved in muharramat that we cannot even imagine. There's muharramat at times that brothers narrate to us, we cannot even imagine after being born in this country, living in this country, that this is what our Muslim youth are doing. As you find the Arab proverb, that maybe we are in one valley and they are in a different valley. That's what's beginning to take place. We're living in one valley, they live in a different valley. And hopefully we want the both valleys to meet together. The pathways to meet, and we could begin the struggle together, living inside this environment. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala place these words in our Mizan of Hasanat, both the disseminator, all of you respected brothers and sisters that took the time and effort to come here today. Likewise, the brothers and sisters organizing this event. Make us amongst those individuals الَّذِينَ يَسْتَمِعُونَ الْقَوْلَ فَيَتَّبِعُونَ أَحْسَنَهُ. You hear, not just hear, but pay attention to the words and implement them to the best of their ability. إِنَّ اللَّهَ وَمَلَائِكَتُهُ يُصَلُّونَ عَلَى النَّبِيِّ يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا صَلُّوا عَلَيْهِ وَسَلِّمُوا تَسْلِيمًا اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين ربنا اغفر لنا ولإخواننا الذين سبقونا بالإيمان ولا تجعل في قلوبنا غلا للذين آمنوا ربنا إنك رؤوف رحيم ربنا أفرغ علينا صبرا وثبت أقدامنا وانصرنا على القوم الكافرين ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين واجعلنا للمتقين إماما ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين بارك الله فيكم